Hey guys, I'm Ryan Wright.
And I'm Alex Robinson.
Alex Robinson from The Real Mr. Robinson is here, and today we're going to talk about Terminator Genisys, covering some spoilers. I saw The Real Mr. Robinson. He's a fan of the channel, saw a couple of his reviews. Literally, this guy's more intellectual than I am. I didn't even say intellectual properly. Alright, so let's just hop into some direct spoilers, alright? I kind of mapped out things I wanted to talk about in order.
Doctor Who is Skynet.
Doctor Who is Skynet. We're going to start off with that, apparently. Yeah, how'd you feel about that? I personally have not seen much of Doctor Who, so...
Well, the problem is, I mentioned this in my review, you see Matt Smith in some of those cheesy as fuck promo ads before the first trailer even came out.
Yeah.
And then through every trailer, we don't see him at all. And he's in this movie for like about 3 minutes. He's the one that grabs John Connor as Kyle Reese is sent back to 1984, and apparently... all the soldiers surrounding John Connor don't do jack shit.
They don't notice, yeah.
Yeah, and then he turns John Connor into the T-1000, and he's that stupid little hologram, Oliver Cyberdyne, saying, "You're not gonna kill me, you're not gonna kill me."
I mean, that was pretty funny when no one notices it. I mean, Kyle Reese is about to fucking time travel.
Yeah.
But, you know, he can never take his eyes off John Connor because he really wants to put his dick in his mouth. But,
Now, I think that... proves that
the first
he's bi for the Connors.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes, it's a pretty homoerotic relationship, and this guy's not even realizing that's his son. So John Connor was taken. Skynet, played by, what's his name again?
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith. I'm pretty sure he signed some contract for like 3 sequels or some shit. I'm pretty sure all these guys did, because this is supposed to be like an official reboot for the series until James Cameron gets his rights back.
Well, whether succeeds or not, he's getting them back. Huh?
My issue with that scene that really bothered me was you said it in your review, I couldn't tell at times if this was a reboot or a sequel that was ignoring T3 and 4. One thing that really threw me off, because I remember watching Terminator 1, there's a scene that goes to a flashback of Kyle Reese, Terminator attacks underground, he has Sarah Connor's photo, it burns.
Yeah.
It just disintegrates into ash. In this movie, when John Connor is like talking to Kyle Reese as Kyle Reese is undressing, he sees Sarah Connor. He sees the photo fall. I'm like, that photo wasn't supposed to be around at this particular point. At this point, it's supposed to be gone. That was a big fault on their part. Fault in the stars.
It's really not really good, or it's more bad in the writing, because you just have writers that just didn't really do their homework outside the fact that how could, when they go to 2017, Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, how is it John Connor, whether he's a Terminator or not, how does he exist if Sarah and Kyle didn't fuck in 1984?
Yeah, no, that was I had that complaint on the Terminator 2 Honest trailer when I was bringing up that point. Yeah. Because this movie, especially this movie, makes it very clear that John Connor was born before Judgment Day. Kyle Reese was born after Judgment Day.
Yeah.
And then they have a whole scene where Kyle Reese meets John Connor, and he's clearly a kid at the time. It makes no sense. That was my biggest problem with this scene when Kyle Reese finds out. I was like, that's kind of a funny moment, but why is Kyle Reese not being like, hey, this doesn't make any logical sense. How could I be your father? They didn't even bother to try to explain it through some weird time-traveling thing. They just dropped the whole subject.
Most illogical, Captain. That's my Spock.
That's your Spock.
Yeah.
It's your Spock. Some of your impressions sound very similar to other impressions you do.
I'm sure they are.
There were things I liked about it, with the homages and the replicated shots.
Yeah.
I know you felt differently about that, though.
I did. My problem with basically remaking the first movie shot for shot was you could have easily used stock footage for some of them. Like, I know for the punks you can't bring Bill Paxton back in.
That'd be cool.
It would have been...
He's a 60-year-old 1980s gangster.
It just reminded me of the remake of Psycho. It's like, you're really doing these scenes again, but not adding anything really new for some of them. But then there is that little change when the old Arnie comes up and beats the shit out of the young Arnie.
You see, that's why I like that, though, was because at first it's like, oh, they're just replicating first one. And then they add twists to it. Like, oh, Kyle Reese wakes up. He, in front of the bum, seals his pants, and then a T-1000 attacks him. I like that they were fucking with what we already knew, and then pulling, twisting it awesome.
I guess another problem I have is that the actors who have to deliver that original dialogue aren't very good. Like the bum. In this one, it's just like, hey man, did you see a really bright light? And then the original, it's like, hey man, did you see a really bright light? Like, it's cheesy, but it's a little more believable than...
Yeah, it's because the problem with, like, it's a little weird when you're like, let's take young Arnie, specifically young Arnie, but let's recast other people, you know?
Yeah.
And so they recast these characters, but the problem is that they were looking for imitations, not sincere portrayals or sincere performances.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why they came off like fake and kind of making you wish like I wish I was just watching the original one right now. And I feel they could have shot around the gangsters too, like especially the Bill Paxton one. You know, like they could have just used the original footage and then cut to a different shot when old Arnie shows up. You know,
or what would have been better is if the old Schwarzenegger was hiding behind the truck that the new Arnie appears at, like just before he gets a chance to rise up, like this.
Yeah.
It's just like come in, snap the neck,
and
give Sarah Connor the thumbs up.
What did you think about the T-1000 coming back? One thing that bothered me about it right off the bat was there was no real explanation as to why they sent a T-1000 back just to wait for Kyle Reese.
I wasn't too fond of it because the T-1000 is like in the movie for about maybe less than 5 minutes and then just goes away.
Yeah.
My bigger problem with something involving the T-1000, and this is actually something you turned me around on, I was like, I kind of like Arnold getting an upgrade to the T-1000 at the end, but then you like talked about it and I'm like, yeah, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, I don't really like it because what's made Arnold so cool, because Arnold starts off Terminator 1, he's a villain, he's terrifying, it's a T-800.
Yeah.
Then in part 2, they top that T-800 with a T-1000.
Yeah.
And then the Terminatrix is even more evolved, and then Sam Worthington's is even more evolved. You got this new Terminator, and so what makes Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator cool is that he's a classic, he stays the same, he's always a T-800, but figures out a way to win.
Yeah.
That's what makes Arnold cool, because he's like a thinking machine. When you make him a T-1000, it's like, oh, come on, what made him fucking awesome was that he was, vintage.
Yeah.
Was the T-1000, it's supposed to be the same one, right?
No, I mean...
Because this guy's clearly Asian.
I don't think he's supposed to be the same one, but I think, again, it's just like, hey, remember this awesome character from Terminator 2? Remember that he's dressed like a cop? Remember he gets shot in the eye and repairs himself? Don't you remember all that cool shit? And it's like, yes, and I'd rather be watching the original movie that had that cool shit.
So the spoiler, it's a real fucking spoiler that's in the movie.
Yeah.
That's in the trailer.
Yeah, you mentioned it in your spoiler-free review, but I felt like it was my duty to not be the trailer or the main poster and just say, you know what? If you've never seen the trailer, then I'm just not going to mention it.
No, that was cool of you. I don't care about people enough. The John Connor twist, when you find out John Connor is the Terminator, is the Terminator villain now. I like the concept of that more than I like the execution of what they did with it. The concept of it was interesting to me because every movie, John Connor is the savior. And in this one, they're like, no, he's the Antichrist at this point,
Right.
Something about the way it was executed, I felt like this is the moment when John Connor is a brand new Terminator. And there was already so much shit going on that by the time it got to that, it was like, well, I'm already keeping up with everything else. Yeah. What this is just another piece of a bunch of different Terminators now. It's not the strong emotional impact it needed to be. And my biggest problem too was the way fucking Sarah Connor is just like, all right, we gotta kill him. It's that simple. We just gotta shoot him.
Yeah, we gotta kill my son that I don't really know that much about.
I've committed my whole life to making this work.
My problem with the twist is he's not really that much. It's like the TX. He's not really that much of an advancement from the other models. Like he's not nowhere near as threatening as the T-1000. Like I think the T-1000 is the pinnacle of threatening Terminators.
Yeah, no, he's actually scary.
And the other problem I have is like it is a bit different that John Connor's taking this role, but the problem is we've never had... Adult John Connor has never been portrayed well. Like Nick Stahl in T3 was pretty much a bum and had Shia LaBeouf mannerisms. Christian Bale was, I thought, the best, but that's not saying much at all, because he just channeled Clint Eastwood, and all the focus is more on Marcus Wright than John Connor in Salvation. And then here, you got another chance to do it, and you make John Connor that's been built up for the first movie and so many other lore, and you make him the villain. Wow.
All right, you kind of just flipped me on that. Yeah, all right, because at first I was like, cool twist, but now you're, okay. You got a good point there, actually. Yeah, because we never really got the right opportunity to see this savior, this leader, do his job.
Yeah, the most we saw was him looking through binoculars in T2 and just...
I mean, did you like the first 10 to 15 minutes of Genisys? Because I like seeing John Connor doing some leadership stuff.
I actually kind of did. I mean, the only thing I didn't like about the opening outside of Jai Courtney was John Connor's motivational speech was sort of laughable to me. I didn't really... It just came across as cheesy, but I did like the future scenes, and I did like old Arnie and the fact that they touch on the fact that, hey, the tissue on the T-800 is actually age. That's really something that's the one only part in the movie that's actually clever.
Yeah, we both covered it in our reviews that are non-spoilers. If you want to hear our opinions on that, you should check it out. But at the end of the day, we liked it, and it fucking works, and I really appreciated that they took the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger has definitely aged since Terminator 3, and they used it in their advantage, rather than having to work against it.
So for anyone who feels like, oh man, Alex, the real Mr. Robinson hates every bit of that movie, I don't. It's still... shit in my opinion, but there are good elements to it.
You talked about this dude in your review. I didn't mention him. J.K. Simmons in this movie. First off, I love J.K. Simmons. I think he's a fantastic actor. He shows up in this film, and he's a totally different type of character than we're used to seeing him as. He's normally like the man in charge and knows what he's doing. Well, this guy was kind of looked at as like a loony, so no one really believed him, and they thought he was like that crazy detective. You set this character up like he's been following this case for 30 years. He wants answers. He gets nothing. He gets shot. He gets nothing.
He gets no answers, and the three protagonists just abandon him.
Yeah.
I'm really wondering if this movie's gonna succeed. Like, if it's gonna make money.
No, yeah.
Because Salvation flopped, and Arnie's not really been on a hot streak after leaving his post as the Governor.
What are you talking about? Escape Plan was a major hit. So was The Last Stand. So was Maggie.
I'm pretty sure they didn't make money.
And then the last thing we should cover, Kyle Reese unnecessarily giving a message to young Kyle Reese, even though Skynet has officially been terminated.
That's the part that made me laugh at the end. It's like, yeah, Judgment Day is done. We destroyed Skynet. The heroes track down a young Kyle Reese, and old Kyle Reese goes up to young Kyle Reese. How many times can I say Kyle Reese? And says, remember, Genisys is Skynet. It's like, you fucking destroyed Skynet. Why are you giving that message?
There's no reason to traumatize yourself at this point. Like, my main issue with that moment is actually that entire last scene. I didn't like the way it was executed at all. It was cheesy, felt like it was from a different movie. That kid, when Sarah Connor first shows up, she's like, hey, what are you doing here? I got a friend who wants to say something to you. Okay. What's the message? All right, I'll remember. And then they make out, and I just don't buy their chemistry.
When Sarah Connor encounters the younger Kyle Reese in the hospital, it like doesn't come across as like you can like she's trying to help this kid. It comes across as a little creepy. Yeah, and it just establishes more of how does John Connor really exist, because Sarah Connor is an adult with a shotgun. And this is a 10-year-old boy running around in this hospital. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. We wanted to just give some spoiler opinions here. If you're new to the channel, you can subscribe to The Real Rejects. You can check out The Real Mr. Robinson. He has a bunch of great reviews on there. Seriously, check it out. There's some Let's Plays, too. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, me on Vine. He doesn't have a Vine. No. Follow us on our social networks, because if we get enough followers, he could get product placement, and I could get more product placement. Yeah. Money is amazing for things such as puzzles. Puzzles are great. Yeah. You know what the greatest puzzle is? Figuring out the mystery to a woman's vagina of how to eat it out. That's a mystery that I've been trying to solve for 24 years.
Something tells me that when Kyle Reese goes down on Sarah Connor, she's going to be really hairy, and it's going to turn him off. But then again, people from the future are probably really hairy too. Yeah. You know, you got to think about these things. People don't put enough attention to detail into the person's pubes, but I think pubes are going to be a big part of the future. When the Terminators get sent back through time, do they have pubes? Do they not have pubes? We need to know these things, writers.
No, I'm pretty sure that when they sent Arnie and the T-1000 back, they were shaved.
They look shaved.
Even the TX, even though we didn't really get to see her snatch, but whatever.
The one good thing that movie could have done.
Yeah, what can you do? That's what the internet's for. I'm sure there's Terminator porn out there.
There is. Come on me if you want to live.